Around Chicago, we're faced with extreme temperature and humidity fluctuations throughout the course of the year, and a lot of guitar players are unaware of the toll that this can take on their instruments. Winter can be particularly rough, especially in Chicago. We've got wet, heavy snow, or dry, sub-zero temperatures, usually for weeks on end, and none of that is ideal for the lifespan of a guitar or any instrument made from solid woods. This video will address some of the things that can and will happen due to humidification issues and temperature shock. The guitar is a 2004 Gibson J100. It was stored against an outside wall during a particularly cold winter with no source of moisture inside the case. As a result of the lack of humidity and the colder than ideal temperatures, the guitar faced a series of issues that needed to be rectified for it to be in optimum playing condition. Unfortunately, one of the things that occurred would not be able to be repaired, and that was a heavy amount of weather checking. So, wood shrinks and expands according to humidity and how it was cut. When wood expands or contracts, for example, when your fretboard shrinks, your fret ends pop out of the fretboard and all of a sudden it's got a very sharp feel at every fret, either poking or stabbing you in the hand, depending on how severe it is. Now, a nitro finish, which is what is used to seal the wood or finish the wood, give it that glossy mirror-like look. Now, a nitro finish can shrink and expand, but it needs a little bit more time to do it. Weather checking is a permanent cosmetic sign of an instrument being stressed out, usually involving temperature shock. Notice the incredible amount of checking on the sides of this guitar. Had this instrument not been stored up against an outside wall, this damage could have been lessened if not avoided. Now, it is purely cosmetic, so while it's not detrimental to the guitar like some of the other things that happened, it is irreversible unless we actually strip the instrument and refinish it completely. If the guitar case feels cold, then the guitar is probably cold. So it's best to bring them indoors, let them both warm up to room temperature, and then open the case. And you'll avoid shocking the instrument. When we receive nitro finished guitars during the winter months, we let them acclimate overnight before opening them just to be safe. So how to fix this one? We've got to strip and refinish the guitar, which is very expensive. So we're going to pass on that this time around. Proper moisture levels are essential to prolonging the life of an instrument. When the top of a guitar gets dehydrated, it starts to cave in. This means that the top will sink deeper into the body, pulling the strings with them until the strings lay flat against your fretboard, not allowing anything to resonate. Here we see a straight edge coming off the fretboard. Proper setup would be indicated by the end of the straight edge resting just on top of the bridge. You can see that the top of this guitar has sunk, which has resulted in very low action, which makes it easy to play. Great! Wait, not great? Well, it's great until your strings rest flat against your fretboard, giving your guitar the equivalent of the Denver boot. Once it gets this bad, the rehydration process will typically take a little bit longer and might involve some other repairs like having to re-glue some of your braces or having to cleat any cracks that might have opened up in the back, top, or sides of the guitar. That's cracks in the top, back, and sides of your guitar that could be avoided by simply using some sort of humidification process. The price for rehydrating an instrument isn't terribly expensive, but it's the time you'll be out the instrument that's unfortunate. As if string tension, a heavy pick, and a less than light touch weren't enough to pull the bridge right off the guitar, as the top sinks, the glue on the edges of the bridge lose their grip. You can see the edges of the bridge have begun to separate from the top. If this is allowed to continue, once the glue gets loose enough and enough tension is applied, the bridge could actually come flying off the guitar with all the string tension on it, which is definitely disastrous. When caught early on, as this one was, we can actually steam the bridge off and re-glue it. Oftentimes the work is unnoticeable. However, once the wood around the bridge itself gets damaged, there's very little one can do to make it cosmetically unnoticeable. If your instrument has a pick guard, that could also end up needing to be re-glued from being dehydrated as well. How do we fix this one? We steam off the bridge and re-glue it. So let's look at our total. Bridge removal and re-glue 175. Filing the fret edges 70 and up. Rehydration 35 to 75 depending on severity. Restring and setup 50.
totaling a minimum of $320. So what can you do to minimize the chances that this will happen to your guitar?
For decades, people have been using a variety of methods to keep their instruments hydrated. Who doesn't have a moldy green tube with a sponge in it in their arsenal of guitar supplies? The humidification system from Diodario is definitely our favorite choice. The fact that it grants 3 to 4 months worth of protection without even having to check the instrument is just an absolutely fantastic thing. You know, not all of us have time, especially if we've got a large collection, to be tending to them every day, every 2 days to check and refill a dampit. The humidification system that we're talking about, it's basically a $20 insurance policy for your guitar. It will always maintain about 45% humidity inside your case, giving it an ideal environment, just the right amount of moisture so that it's healthy year-round. And please remember, just because you spent a ton of money on the custom acoustic guitar of your dreams, that does not excuse you from taking care of it. A really expensive guitar needs to be cared for, oftentimes even more so depending on what it's made out of, than an inexpensive instrument. So make sure to check your acoustics for any of these issues, and if you notice any of them, bring them on into the shop and we can assess them for you. And while you're here, pick up the humidification system for your acoustic guitars. We order these things in bulk for some people with large collections, and they absolutely swear by them as well. If all this humidification stuff sounds like nonsense to you, come to the shop and check out our collection of carbon fiber guitars. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. I hope that you found the video informative and that your instruments make it through the winter safely.